Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I am Gerry. Joining me today, I have Terry, and Max is back. That's right. He's been busy, folks. So, cut him a little slack. Max, welcome, man.
Thanks. It's great to be back, as always.
Wonderful. So I can't do a super long intro to this because it's one of the videos. It's not the podcast. Otherwise, I would sit there and we'd recreate our conversation we had off camera about uniforms, Adrissa Gay, It Part 2, but we can't. So you missed it, and I'm sorry. It's gone. But we are going to talk match preview, Sheffield United. So let's talk about the match. Right now, Sheffield United, their current form, they're 15th in the table with 5 points. They're 1-2-2. Recent results is a 1-0 loss to Southampton, 2-2 draw with Chelsea, 2-1 loss to Leicester, and in the Cup, a 2-1 win over Blackburn. Before I get into possible lineups and who's out and who's not and all that kind of thing, Max, why don't you start us off just talking about just the eye test. When you glance at this, where do you feel like what could possibly trip us up, and any players that might be missing that could be bad for us?
Obviously, first and foremost, you've got to highlight the system that Chris Wilder adopts with Sheffield United, with the overlapping centre half, which is obviously a different challenge to anything that we've really faced before. It's 3-5-2, which is obviously unusual for the Premier League. Obviously, usually you have your overlapping runs coming from your fullbacks to overlapping your wingers, but this time round he seemed to have found a really balanced system where he manages to get the centre halves up there. That for me gives us some hope that we might be able to be a bit clinical on I say clinical. It depends how we are on the day, obviously, because we're Everton. But the potential to hit them on the counter attack with the players that we have and the current form that they're in. I genuinely don't think that Iwobi or Richarlison played too badly against Bournemouth. I think they created the better of our chances. Again, unfortunate on the road. 6 league away. I think it's 6 league away games without a win, which is really unfortunate. As you say, it's great to be coming back to Goodison. But in terms of players that can hurt us, I did actually make a few notes on some players as well. Obviously, you've got to mention John Lundstrom, Everton Academy graduate who managed to get their first Premier League goal back in a 1-0 win. Oliver McBurney was a player that I highlighted centre forward. 17 million, come from Swansea in the summer. I think he's grabbed the goal too. He looks a real physical presence, and if my research served me correctly, Sheffield United are up there with the most physical sides in the country in the Football League. I think only West Brom manage more fouls than them, which it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's Steel City. It's kind of their origins and where they come from. And I just would like to add as well, it's nice to have Sheffield United back in the Premier League. I think this is the fixture that dates, competitively back to 1893, and they're founders of the Football League like us. So yes, it should be a really good game, and we should be talking about third place against 15th place. But as always, we get a nosebleed when talks are going into the Champions League places happen. But we come into this in 11th.
Mentality.
True.
So yeah, here in the States, there's a series that NBC Sports has put out called Promoted. It's just a series of short docs on the 3 promoted sides. And so I watched one on Norwich and watched one on Sheffield United. It's nice learning about these clubs. I knew very little about Sheffield United. It's nice to kind of get the history of the city and to kind of get the vibe on how they've built up and how they've reached the Premier League. It's pretty awesome. It's a good series if anybody has access to it. I'm forcing it down my kids' throats, and they love it. Anything we were talking off camera about any kind of football doc that gives you behind the scenes stuff. man, my whole family's just like eating it up. It's crazy. Anyway, so let's talk about the possible lineup. You started getting into it a little bit, Max, but when we talk about this, I'll hand it off to Terry to kind of move the baton forward. Henderson starting in goal, Chris Basham, John Egan, Jack O'Connell, George Baldock, John Lundstrom, Oliver Norwood, John Fleck, into Stevens, and then maybe Callum Robinson or Oliver McBurney, and Oliver McBurney. But it's possible that David McGoldrick, could end up being one of the starters up front. You could see, I think it's Lise Mousset coming in, Ravel Morrison.
Yeah, they got Billy Sharp usually on the bench as well too, who's proved he's capable of scoring a goal.
He is actually suspended. Division. He got a red card.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Better for us then, I suppose.
Yeah. I saw it, I'm like, hey, I'm down with that. That's fine. And you could see a Freeman or Ben Osborne coming off the bench as well. So Terry, going through those names, I just, beyond the basic research that I did, I noticed that no one on their team has more than one goal in the Premier League. So it's not like that's a danger man. You know what I mean? What do you know about Sheffield, and what do you think could possibly trip us up? And then we'll start talking about our lineup, which may be the thing that kind of makes us raise our eyebrows more than anything.
Well, Max touched on it really. How physical they are as a team. It's like it's the dark arts of football, isn't it? Like the little tricks that they'll do. They'll have all players who will be pinching our players on corners, and tactical fouls, and like roughing up and stepping on toes and all that stuff. And that's, I think, where we struggle the most against those, for want of a better way, those bastard teams who aren't going to engage. They're not going to come and think, right, well, we've got the quality to outplay Everton. They know they haven't. We've got quality players all over the pitch, but they will have a shot if they come and try and bully us out of the game. And that's what I worry about, because we've got some players who are up for a bit of a battle, but some of them not so much. Like, I wonder whether it'll make a few players shrink into themselves, or possibly make them overreact and get I think might be good for a red card in this game, because the likes of Gerry and Andre Gomez and players like that, they've got a history of not reacting very well when someone tries a bit of funny business with them. So I just think the key for us is to try and make that quality show. Don't let them dictate the game. For example, I definitely want to see Moise Keane start this game. I want to see with that overlapping fullback system they've got. I think he might find some space on the break, to move into, and let the quality of the player, see if he can get his first goal for the club and get off the mark and get settled, because these are the type of games at home to some of the weaker teams where you're going to probably see the most out of them, because when you're going to go into the other games against the much better defenders, that's when his lack of experience is probably going to become more apparent. So I want to see him. I don't want to see him on the bench as much as Calvert-Lewin. Scored last game. He works hard. He used to play for Sheffield United, so I'm sure he'll be up for playing against them. But I want to see Moise Keane start.
That was one of the. I mean, that's one of my main talking points, talking about our lineup. All right. So if we could give our predicted lineups, and I really wanted to gauge what you guys were thinking about the DCL Moise Keane decision and why. I know in the previous match, Silva made a decision to go with DCL for tactical purposes. He looked at the body type of DCL, the type of player he is, and decided to go with him versus that particular Bournemouth defense. So, honestly, I don't think any of us are debating much of Pickford, Coleman, Keane, Mina, Luka Dean, right? That's pretty much who's starting for us in the back. Yeah. And if Andre Gomez is still out, it's going to be Schneiderlin and Delph probably, yeah? Probably.
You'd imagine so, despite the recent kind of racketeering for Tom Davies to come back into the fray. Mm-hmm. I just, at all, to be honest with you, I think they're two, predominantly defensive players. They do the mopping up in and around and do the dirty work. I would like to see Tom Davies come back in and play, preferably alongside Delph, because I think when he plays alongside Schneiderlin, I start getting flashbacks to 17, 18. But yeah, I think that a few question marks remain over the midfield that he chooses to.
Yeah. I think I don't know. It's weird. Like Davies will come, he'll warm up in the middle of a game, and then he'll, he just doesn't go in. But it just Silva's making his adjustments. What he think is right. What he thinks is right based on the flow of the game, based on, and especially in this particular combination. I'll be curious if Tom Davies manages to somehow get in. And we know Richarlison, Sigurdsson, and Wobie. They're probably starting, right? So. So you thought that Moise Kean would be a better matchup for this Sheffield defense, Terry. Max, what are you thinking? Are you thinking the same thing?
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say I feel like Keane's the better matchup. I feel like Keane's probably the better starter of the pair. I think if he can get in there, do the best that he can, I'll still refer to I'll regurgitate what I always say when I'm talking about Moise Kean, is that, he's still, 19? He's gonna need his time to blood in. Obviously that's equated to substitute appearances, and I've many people arguing that the 20 minutes towards the end of Bournemouth just simply wasn't enough. So hopefully there'll be some sort of, response to that, and we'll see him start. But as Terry alluded to, where he feels like Keane would have a look in behind, when the centre-backs bomb on and try and create their overloads and leave this, even though the centre midfielders do tuck in and try and fill in the space, there are going to be, spaces to exploit in behind. This is where I feel like Dominic Calvert-Lewin would do really good coming in off the bench. If he got fresh legs, he's not lagging. His sprint speed is pretty much around, top gear. I feel like on that switch, on the counter-attack, I feel like he can cause damage. Obviously, I think it's becoming more and more apparent now, the more that we're seeing him play. His job as a centre forward is to bring us into it and get others involved. I think it's just becoming more apparent now that he's just not a goal scoring centre forward. His job is to be a nuisance. His job is to stretch the pitch, and his job is to hold it up.
Win 50-50 balls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like he could have some luck with that towards the latter, the end of the game. Fingers crossed. And I mean, there's no guarantees with this, but I'd like to imagine that we'd be out of sight towards the end of the game with a 2-goal cushion. But I don't know. Again, hopefully that the fact that he is coming up against the former club is added motivation, because it certainly, it seems to do the trick in the past when players come up against the former clubs.
Yeah, I was up in the air between whether it'll be DCL or Keane. It really was. And whether or not which one should be. I do maintain, I think that this would be a good one for Keane to start. We're at Goodison, trying to build his confidence as well. But DCL's coming off a game where he scored. Is this possible that he could end up taking this momentum into the next game? It's possible. Sometimes it just takes that first one to settle you the hell down. Yeah. So I don't know. The idea of him finding space late, that's interesting.
Yeah,
and also a couple. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I don't think he had the best of his duels up against Steve Cook and Nathan Ake against Bournemouth, and given that he started and just didn't seem to have that impact. He's, although it is a 5-back or a 3-back in or out of possession, he's coming up against similar physical players. Fingers crossed this time he'll have learned a few lessons from that Bournemouth game, and we'll have the better of his adversaries.
Can I ask you as a question about Sheffield's back three in that overlapping center backing system? So a couple of games back, we play Wolves, and Moise Kean has a little bit of trouble finding space with their back three. But they didn't have the same. They technically were playing a back three, but it wasn't the same as what Sheffield United does. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that Moise Kean would have some similar issues that he had in that one, or is it the fact that they run that overlapping system where he's going to find more space than he would have against Wolves? I wasn't sure
Go
which
on,
one of y'all
Teddy.
wants to take it. So I know you both have answers. So
No, go on, Teddy.
I mean, the back three for Wolves, well, for start, they weren't having a very good game in general. But they struggled with the space out wide of them because they had two wing backs who, I think one was Adama Traore. He's not a wing back in general. He's got a defensive bone in his body. I can't remember who the left wing back was, but they were suffering a lot by having Sigurdsson move into the spaces, the half space behind their wing backs. So the three centre backs were all preoccupied with Moise Kean. So that was giving Sigurdsson a lot of joy in the pockets. Whereas I think this would be different. Their back three, I'd say it's formulated with a attacking sort of phase in mind, like an overlap. Max said before, they look to create overloads with the overlapping centre back, and I think that will open up a little bit more for Moise Kean because they will shift into a more, I don't want to say back four, but they'll move backwards and to keep their defensive shape, which will give him a lot more space. Moise Kean couldn't get through three central defenders last game, whereas he won't face three this time. On paper he will, but whenever he's in the ball on the break, he's got the ball on the break, he won't be against three, he'll be against two and a midfielder, or maybe even just two. So
the transition is going to be key, isn't it?
Yeah, and I just think what we're going to need is, when we're in that transition, Dominic Calvert-Lewin will get the ball, he'll stop it and he'll look for another player, whereas Moise Kean, we've seen him try it already a few times. He'll get the ball and try and spin the defender and fashion himself a shot on goal. I think that he's tried it against Bournemouth and he's tried it against Wolves, and I think he's going to try it again. I think it'll come off, gets it, spins the defender and gets the striker goal. I think he might score doing that this week.
Fingers crossed.
Sheffield tend to bunker back and or are they more of an attacking push forward? I ask this because Moise Kean is a transitional scorer. We get the ball, he wants to fly forward in that space, he wants to score as quickly as possible. DCL, it seems like one of the reasons he's in is for that, to be able to attack the ball in the air, because he is probably the best forward we have in the air. I haven't really seen him take advantage of much space in front of him this season at all.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you just refer back to the Bournemouth game. You look at that. I think we had something like 55% possession, well, between 55 and 60. And given that this is at Goodison Park, I do expect us to have the main share of possession, which in turn I think Sheffield United will respond to that turn. Transition into a 5-3-2 low block, which it'll be hard for us to break down. So as I reiterated, I just feel like that turnover when we win the ball back, we've just got to be quick and getting it forward, trying to isolate the 1v1 situations, which Moise Kean seems to excel at.
He usually likes 1v2. He's cool with it.
Yeah, cool. just give, of course, give Touchwood, given that he does start.
Yeah. All right. So let's give our predictions before we close out. Terry, what's the score going to be?
I'm going to go with 3-1.
3-1. Who's winning, Terry?
Everton.
Just got to check. Max, what do you got?
We're going to have to be careful from set pieces. Zonal marking, it seems to, rear its way into the centre of contention again. But Goodison Park, the Sirens, going to go for a 2-1 win.
I'm going for a 2-1 win as well. So there it is, guys. We're predicting, 3 people predicting wins, which never bodes well, does it? But we'll see. So I guess that's it for our match preview. If you've been digging the videos, please subscribe to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate it. If you want more Terry, check out the Liverpool Echo fan Gerry. He'll put information on his Twitter about where and when he's going to be. Also, he'll tell you on his Twitter a secret location around town where he will be waiting for you at a certain time where you can just hug him like crazy. So then with Max, Max has he's got a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. You just have to keep an eye on his Twitter account. He'll tell you he's doing some exciting stuff, but no spoilers. Just saying. You
Huh.
gotta wait, find out. He'll tell you what's going on. I'm psyched for him. But he's also doing stuff for the Toffee Blues website. You see some of his pieces on there as well. So keep your eye on that. Just follow the Toffee Blues on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I think that's about all I got for you. Max, good to see you again, buddy. Thanks a lot.
As always, likewise.
Terry, appreciate it, buddy.
Take it easy, boys.
All right, and I guess that's it. Let's get 3 points this weekend. Bye.